what does healthy, sustainable leadership look like to you?
To me, I think vulnerability is really important. So for me, I think as a leader, being sustainable is like we are all humans, right? We are
Yeah.
all people. We all are feeling deeply the work that we're doing. Particularly for the work that we do, it's like I don't think we could do that work unless we were looking at the whole
Yeah.
person. We are here to serve people who are vulnerable, who are hungry, who are unsafe, all of those things. So I think the humanity is not just with the people that we serve, but also how we work with one another. Like, if more of us think about others, we
Yeah.
can make a difference. It's like that one woman's life has been helped or saved. That's what gives me hope.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Hello, I'm Bossy. We're here to welcome Melissa Browne, Chief Development Officer of the United Way of New York City. She's a leader devoted to making sure no one is left behind, especially during the holiday season, which we're in right now, but all year long. She's a strategist, a champion for women and families, and a builder of networks that quietly but profoundly change lives. So we're so glad to have you here this
Well,
morning.
thank you. Thank you so much for having me. We're so thrilled to be here and talk about United Way, New York City.
So we were talking a little bit before we started recording that we're in the holiday season. It's a time when generosity often expands, but so does the need.
hmm
What are the biggest needs you're seeing in communities right now, and how can people help support the United Way of New York City?
Yes, for us right now, food insecurity is probably one of the biggest areas of need that we're seeing in New York City. Uh, Food pantries lines are up over 87, or visits are up over 87% since
Oh, wow.
COVID. And here in New York City, in some communities, it's 80%, but the basic average is 56% of New Yorkers can't meet the basic ends meets. So that's
Yeah.
food, health, education, just those basics of survival. For us, we've seen it's really food with our food partners. So we work with over 400 community partners, pantries in New York City, and their lines are too long. They're wondering how
Yeah.
they're going to serve communities. People aren't even sometimes even able to get to the pantry because they're working two and three jobs or don't have
Right.
access to transportation. So there's definitely an increased need, and particularly as we move into those brutal winter months. I mean, you're in Chicago, you know
Yeah.
that wind chill and all of those things. We're really looking at like what is some relief that we can provide to New Yorkers at this moment. So for us, where it's our end of year campaign, like many nonprofits, we have launched a campaign called Don't Take Our Hope, where it's really about not just the donation, but like what does it look like as a community when we all come together to support those who need it us most. So, we are a nonprofit. Obviously, fundraising dollars are most important, but it's also we have opportunities to volunteer. We're having book drives and hygiene drives and cold weather kit drives all across the city this month with our partners. So it's really about how can you support the folks in your community. I'm buying gifts for my son. He has a long list of requirements. I'm like, what does this mean? Um,
I don't
so
even understand these words.
Right. I'm like, what is this? And all of a sudden he's like an ornithone. I don't, some instrument. I'm like, I don't know what that is. And it wasn't on the original list, but I'm able to provide that for him.
Yeah.
So really it's about like, how can we just be thoughtful when we're taking advantage of all the shopping deals, et cetera, and just think about like, well, maybe that money I would have sent on a gift for myself or a friend. Could I also make a donation? If you're not able to give, what's the opportunity to volunteer with
Mhm.
your family and get involved? So those are some ways that we're partnering with our supporters right now to support our community in these times of need.
Yeah, I love the hope that you talk about and that it's in your campaign. Because the holidays are so much, especially the holidays are so much
hmm
about the idea of hope. And what is giving you hope in the middle of these cold months when there's so much need and what brings you hope for your work?
For me, yeah, I'm a water sign, so I feel deeply, right? And it's watching the news and seeing people on the subway or, and here in the city, there is sometimes like, will we ever solve this problem, right?
Mhm.
And what brings me hope is that we have partners who say, I'm increasing my giving because I know the work that you do is so important. Or we have community partners and corporate leading corporations here in New York City who say like, this is an organization that I support. What can I do?
Yeah.
That's what gives me hope. And also like the real life stories from people that we served or work with keep me going. We health equity is one of our pillars. And so where
Hmm.
we go into neighborhoods that are underserved or uninsured and we do health screenings, we have countless stories of folks who are at risk for a heart attack. And if not for
Right.
that screening, who knows what could happen, who are at risk, who are pregnant women who don't have access to sort of that prenatal training, giving them, sort of maternity kits, et cetera. If not for the work that we do with our partners, we know that there's a gap. Talking about food insecurity, we have a story of a woman named Elizabeth. When SNAP benefits were cut, she was asking, what am I going to do to serve my son? I'm able to provide for him. And even
Yeah.
with SNAP benefits being refilled, yes, she is able to, but we know that way too many New Yorkers are thinking about how they're going to protect their families.
Yeah.
So what gives me hope is the problem is large, but if we really come together and think about one person by one family by one, it is making a difference. So that's what gives me hope. Like if more of us think about others, we
Yeah.
can make a difference. It's like that one woman's life has been helped or saved. That's what gives me hope.
As you think of these one families at a time, and for like my family, what could we do to help support individually your work?
For us, I think obviously, again, the giving so we can do what we do, but
Yeah.
looking at I have a 6-year-old son and I take him to volunteer with me or do things with me. We have a community fridge in our neighborhood. So when he's going grocery shopping with me and wants that candy bar that he doesn't really need,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, you need to make sure that you're filling the cart also for the fridge. So getting him in the habit of giving back. We are doing a toy drive here at United Way of New York City for the community as well. And so getting him involved with me, like this is a toy, you're gonna have toys under your Christmas tree. There's folks who right
Yeah.
now they might not. So getting like my family, my young one involved with me to start thinking about you don't even know that you're privileged that
Right.
have a gift or that when you open the snack drawer, there's any snack you could want.
Right.
This is a way to give back. So I think finding those opportunities to volunteer as a family is also, really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On this podcast, the Hello, I'm Bossy. Bossy means, stepping into your voice and um but also knowing when to ask for help, I believe. And where do you see how powerful asking for help can be, or like the courage to say, I need support? Um,
I think it can be hard, particularly as women, as we advance, to say, I can't do the thing. And oftentimes that can lead to failure because you're trying to hold so much and you're
yeah,
not actually saying, I can't do this. So for me, one of the things that I've had to learn to do is say no. And that's hard for me because many of us are raised to be people pleasers and
yeah,
yes, and we want to look like we are following along.
yeah,
I'm doing all those years of, what I've been taught. So being
yeah,
able to say like, I don't think this is a good idea right now, and here's why.
yeah.
Um, like that's been really important for me to say, I can handle a lot of things,
Hmm.
but the risk of not asking for help or saying no could be detrimental.
Yeah. Especially as a leader, I feel like you are, you have the chief in front of you, or part of the
Yes.
C-suite of the organization. So like, what does healthy, sustainable leadership look like to you?
To me, I think vulnerability is really important. And I was talking with a colleague of mine today. She was having a rough day and she started getting teary. And I said, it's okay, you can cry if you need to.
Yeah.
But when I was starting my career, it's like if a woman cried in the office, it was horrible if you showed any emotion, but it was okay to be angry or
Right.
any other emotion. But no, it's okay to feel the feeling. And if you are feeling overwhelmed or frustrated or really touched by the work. So for me, I think as a leader, being sustainable is like we are all humans, right? We are
Yeah,
all people. We all are feeling deeply the work that we're doing. So being vulnerable and honest for me is what's made me sustainable, like has grown in my leadership role is that I'm not trying to perform into like what a C-suite looks like because
right.
is intimidating when you first get that title and you're like, what does that mean? I get to
Yeah,
act like I've seen others act or what I've seen on TV, but
yeah,
actually I'm still Melissa. I'm a person and I'm vulnerable and with the younger women on my team, I definitely try to encourage them to have that vulnerability and not let that drive and work outshadow our connection to one another and our connection to the people that we're serving.
yeah. I spoke recently with another woman, Nita Malik, who is phenomenal. If you don't know her, find her. And we were talking about bringing humility and humanity back into leadership. And the United Way of New York City does this every day. It is just engrossed in the human experience, the very
Hmm.
depth of what it is. Um, and meeting people where they are. So, what do you think humanity in leadership means to you? You kind of already started touching on it, like when someone cries,
Hmm.
being there, but what does it look like?
For me, for particularly for the work that we do, it's like I don't think we could do that work unless we were looking at the whole
Yeah,
person. We are here to serve people who are vulnerable, who are hungry, who are unsafe, all of those things. So I think the humanity is not just with the people that we serve, but also how we work with one another, right? Because things are stressful when SNAP is cut or there's a government
right.
shutdown and we're rallying to how do we lean in and support the population, but then we amongst each other have to be able to have that humanity with one another.
How do you not burn out?
It's taken a while to
Yeah, I was
learn.
like, especially with
Yes,
everything going on, I feel like I would get so frazzled, and then I would be like, I just
I
am gonna
can't do
lay
it.
in bed for
Uh,
like a week. Yeah,
Yes, lay in bed and watch Housewives is,
yeah,
what I often want to do and just not do anything. For me, it's so I'm a mom, my son's 6, and he was born right before COVID. And when I returned to work, working mom, COVID started. I had a big job at the time. I was working under our last administration here in New York City, and I sort of lost myself, like serving others, him and work, etc. And about 18 months ago, I'm like, this is not sustainable. I don't even know who I am. I'm not present in my body. So
yeah,
to keep me going, I've really developed a strong wellness practice. So that's gym. I have a team of like folks supporting me. I'm like, I need a longevity coach. I have a great, if I need to go get a facial, it's not vanity. It's like I need a moment to take care of myself, even
yeah,
in the evening. Put the child to bed. I'm like, I'll shower and just time to myself. So
yeah,
really taking that time for me and knowing like I have a moment that I'm carving out for myself and being able to your point earlier, like say no and putting some boundaries up is sort of how I am able to keep going also because otherwise the problem is so great and it is quite easy to get overwhelmed, but putting myself first, I think
yeah,
allows me to be a better leader employee and mother because I have more of a tank that's full that I can
yeah.
respond to some of those things. I'm not so burnt out that I don't even know how to respond or rally.
I think having you talk about like so many times we consider just the bare necessities to be taking care of ourselves. Like, oh, I took a shower today for a woman. Like, I feel like so many women, especially women, can
Hmm.
relate to that because it's like when you have the time to do just these natural things that we need to do. And we then consider that like self-care. And we're like, no, that's just the basic,
That's the basics.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's like a fundamental thing you just have to do in life. So I love that you include things that are actually like for yourself extra.
Yes.
Because that's where it really starts to kind of like sink in, like, okay,
It's me.
I'm
Yes.
it's me. Yeah, like I know
Yes.
I'm like Kathryn and I'm like a person, not just a mom. Um,
Right. Yeah. My son, he told me recently, he said, you used to wake up like a zombie.
huh,
And you don't think that they notice, but he's right. I was because I was just like,
Yeah,
let me get through the day and t tackle all these things. And since I really started really investing it's a luxury to be able to do, but I'm
right.
definitely showing up differently. So, and I think my colleagues are probably, say something similar, like you feel like
Yeah,
a different person. Yes.
yeah. Do you think empathy is an undervalued, piece of leadership, or do you think it's finally being recognized as strategic strength?
I think it's is changing that empathy piece, that being vulnerable with one another. I do feel, like since I've started my career, that there's been a shift towards empathy and being empathetic and leading from sort of that heart perspective, not just the intellectual piece, because you do need both. They can't just
Right.
be this is a problem and logistics and, stats and data, which are very important, but there's
Right.
also what's that human element of connection and leadership, and how does that guide the work that we do?
We so often equate like those with more women, have these
Yes.
skills, and women play such an enormous role in philanthropy, not always like in the front.
Hmm.
Although the United Way of New York City is really blessed to have,
Yes, our whole leadership team, executive
yeah,
leadership team is all women, and our
yeah,
board, we're about 50% women, which is very rare for
yeah, and
nonprofits and all
yeah,
many organizations.
and yeah,
Yes.
anywhere. But nonprofits are definitely one that you still see it in. And, what unique strengths do you think women bring to philanthropy?
I think one of the things is, particularly with moms, is the ability to multitask and see the
Yeah.
whole, but we have to, right? It's not just one task. It's like, okay, I know there's the pick to your point, picking up pumpkin pies and cranberries, but then it's understanding this. So I think it's like having a mo more holistic lens into
Hmm.
giving. And, women are often those that work and do not work outside of the home are leading the family in
Yeah.
many, many ways. And taking that and be able to say, like, oh, this is an area where I think the support could change this. So,
Hmm.
women in philanthropy are certainly growing. I think us being able to see the whole picture is helpful with that as yes.
You mentioned that you have like a team of kind of women under you as well. Um, how do you think we can support women, especially stepping into nonprofit and philanthropic sector?
I always tell them advice I wish I could, I'm learning to tell myself now. One,
Hmm.
no is a full sentence.
Yeah,
You
I
can
love
say
that. Yeah.
no,
Hmm.
and that has taken me so many years of, having to be in my 40s, I think before I probably was 40 before I really just put boundaries down and
I'm
said
a
no.
Cancer, so I can't say no. I'm
No,
like
I know.
family and I have to do it all. And
Yes. I'm a Pisces, so I relate to you on the word that,
yeah,
but so I tell them that I think also that to what we were speaking about earlier about like it's okay to show vulnerability, right?
yeah,
And weak spots, that they're not weaknesses, they're a way for people to help you as well. Because if
yeah,
we only are showing that we've got it under control, we've got it under control, how would your colleague or your boss even know that you need support? So I'm always asking my team, like, what do you need? But I also tell them, like, I can't help if I don't know.
yeah,
Right. So
yeah,
it's also your job to say, Melissa's a safe space. I'm going to come to her with X and we can problem solve this thing. But yeah, I think just really being vulnerable and like those moments of connection where we're talking about kids or television, et cetera, that the work is important, but we're also people. And we have to keep going. But definitely no and boundaries and like encouraging them to take time for themselves. I'm like, did you take vacation? Have you gotten I'm like, here's
yeah,
a place that does, really great massage. Have you gone to take care of yourself today? Those sorts of things because they have to be able to take care of themselves. Yes.
What do you hope younger women learn from you?
I think my one thing I tell particularly the younger people on my team, I'm like, don't wait till you're 40 to take care of yourself. It's not, and because I think there's this something happens, particularly because it's with women, like vanity is bad,
Yeah,
right? but actually it's how you show up for yourself. It's
Hmm.
okay to put your wellness first, your health first, your body, your health care, etc. Women put so much to the wayside, particularly when we become parents, to take care of others. And even when we don't have children, that's sort of how we're raised
Yeah,
in this society. So really putting yourself forward, it's not selfish, it's not vanity. You're only going to be a better person. So that's one thing that I wish I had known and been able to tell
yeah,
myself. And I'm telling all my, the junior people under me, I'm like, take care of yourself, invest in your wellness, your health, etc., because it's only easier now. It's
yeah.
only going to get harder to do.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm 42, and I think it was like last year that I started like taking care of myself more. Something
Yes.
happens in your 40s. I think
Yes.
you're getting older, right? And you're like, this is a must now.
I
We
have
can't,
to.
yeah, you can't function in all of the spaces that you need to. Like you mentioned, your son, my daughter said something similar. She was like, "Why are you always tired?" And I was like, "Oh no, I don't want to be her to grow up
Mm-hmm.
and be
Mm-hmm.
like, my mom was always tired all the time, right?"
Yes.
So I think that is really important, not just for our kids, but ourselves and our
Yes.
work. That's a great piece. And
Yeah,
that, did
so
you
many of us, I think so many women relate to that, sort of that early
yeah,
40s, something happens. You're like, wait a second. And if I don't do it now, when am I going to do it?
yeah,
Yes, yes.
exactly. We're gonna be like 80 and being like, oh, I was supposed
I
to,
would, right,
get a massage every now and then. I can't walk.
right. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
hunched over because I never,
I know because I never
lifted the
took care of
weight
it.
or did the thing. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Um, what was your path to the United Way of New York City? Like what drew you to this work and what made you realize like this is where I belong?
So for me, I do think it was a calling that I don't even know I could point to. I've always, even in high school, I was volunteering. I was, working on bills for, equality in marriage. That was happening when I was, in high
Yeah.
school. I went to school in DC. I went to George Washington University, and I thought I was
Okay.
going to be an attorney at the time, maybe go into politics. And my senior year of college, I ended up having a internship with a nonprofit in the fundraising and event space, and I fell in love with it. I'm like, this is what I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it is because I really believe that there's no reason for people to be hungry, right? Like kids should not, their only meal should not be at school. Right?
Right.
Like there are some basics that I just think we all should agree to. So
Right.
that is what drives me, I think, and that's what calls me to the work that there are just some things that are not fair,
Right.
and I think we can solve them, right?
Yeah.
Like if government can't, then nonprofit can't. Like we as people can solve them. So
Yeah.
that is what led me to the work, and I've always worked in sort of trying to help people, whether different nonprofits. I've worked internationally in Africa as well. Did a short stint for government here in New York City, but I think it's always what drives me is this work helping improve the lives of someone?
Mhm.
Um, and it's exhausting, but it's rewarding as well.
Yeah. I remember in high school in senior year, you can say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I wanted to be a philanthropist, right?
I
Because
love that.
it is, and now I'm like, I can like, it's not really what I do, but it's what I do on my spare time, helping
Yes.
with like Ronald McDonald House charity.
Oh, they're so great.
They
Yes.
are great too.
Yes.
And it's nice. I love that you say that they're so great because sometimes I feel like there can be competition almost amongst
Mm,
different
nonprofit. Yes.
nonprofits. How do you handle that? You talked about how you worked with for food insecurity. Was it 600 or
So
800?
we have 600 not community partners across New York City, and with our food pantry is about 400, a little more than 400.
How do you work to collaborate with, form these bonds so that you're able to do that?
Yeah, I mean, to your point about being competitive, for me, it's, sadly, the need is so great. There is a need for all of us, right? It would be
Right.
wonderful if we only needed one healthcare, one, sort of thing to deal with sick children or et cetera. But for us, it's really about what we can bring to these smaller CBO organizations is we have the recognition, the data. We also work closely with government. We have corporate partners that we are able to bring in. So they're on the ground daily. It may be a mother and husband who's saw community violence,
Right.
growing in their neighborhood and said, this is not right. But started doing the work, it was successful, but they don't know how to get insurance. They don't know how to become a 501(c)(3. They don't know how to apply for a grant. They don't
Yeah,
know all these things. And we can go in and work with them so that they can do the work and expand. So it really
yeah,
is like, how do we multiply the good work that folks are doing?
yeah.
And look at it from that lens.
I love that you all do support like the community efforts because that's really where change like takes place on that like
Hmm.
ground level of just kind of digging in and being like, we have a project, like this is my block, this is my neighborhood
Hmm.
type of thing, and you kind of claim it and work with it. I think that's so smart. But you talked a little bit about hope earlier and the holidays. And, you know, I think that what you all do kind of year long is this great Christmas effort. It's kind of like what Christmas is about,
Yes.
and the whole piece of it. And you all go in, you see a need, you show up for people, and I mean, you really do bless them with
Right.
your work. And I think that's just like the most beautiful piece to it. But how would you like to see the United Way of New York City grow? Like, where do you see it in 10 years? And how are you a part of that, do you think?
For us, we want we're 87 years old, and always
Oh,
say like
wow.
we want it to be 187,
Yeah.
and keep growing. I think when I think about the growth is, my boss, Grace, who, you interviewed, she says
Yeah.
last year, she has said last year we gave around 15 million pounds of food. Our goal is that we don't have to do that, right?
Oh, I love that.
That
Work
there
your
are
way out of a
work
job.
your way out of it, right? And we've
Yeah.
incubated programs that have been adopted by the city or have spun off to their own, other nonprofits because we've incubated it, it's been successful, and then we can back out. So even with all the preventative healthcare things that we're doing, the goal would be that, okay, now some of these communities are better set up to have better access to healthcare.
Yeah.
We're not needed. So when I think about growth, obviously I want us to still be working,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's like we've helped solve or at least correct some of these major issues that we're seeing, and how can we move along?
Yeah.
And so when we think about the advocacy work that we do and how we're bringing folks together, I think when I think about growth, that's what my hope and vision
Yeah.
is for United Way of New York City. And we have partners who are behind us and say, like, we believe in what you do. How can we be more supportive? How can we brainstorm? What's like
Yeah.
that connection piece? That's my hope for the future for the organization.
I think that is such a beautiful way of looking at it. I talked to another woman from the Gates Foundation, and she helped with polio.
Hmm.
And it's another one of those things where you put so much work into it, and you're like, I hope that I don't have to
Do
like
this.
do this because we
Yeah.
fix it,
Right.
and I think that's just a beautiful way of looking at it, instead of being like, I hope that we can give away, twice as much food. And it's really kind of the opposite of what
Yeah.
your work is. And I hadn't thought of it like that. I think my last question for you, because I know you're busy, is kind of the foundation of this. I mentioned that my daughter was called Bossy
Hmm.
by a teacher. Um, and I was upset at first because I was like, why is someone still using that word? And then diving into it with other people, I was like, that's like leadership, really, what she's doing. And
Yes.
that's trying to help others. Was there a time when you were called, bossy or too much or too emotional, and then how do you see that moment as a sign of your strength
I
now?
think it's all three, right? Because I'm bossy because I know how to solve this problem.
That's how you
Right. Like
become a chief of
that,
anything,
right.
right?
That's how
Is
you come
because
in
you
because
are.
you can come in and say, oh, we need to do this, etc. But for some
Right.
reason, it has a negative connotation, particularly with women. So I think a lot of and I'm tall, I'm sitting down, but I'm 5'9",
Oh,
I have a
wow.
presence. I have never shied away from, big makeup or big hair. And so, I have in certain points in my life sort of tried to make that hide that part of
Yeah.
myself,
Like
but
dim yourself.
yeah, dim myself, but I'm not showing up as my best self. So,
Right.
I'm tall, but I wear a heel. And that's if my being in heels 6'3" makes you uncomfortable, apologies, right?
Right.
I will cry when I feel something. There have been things that have happened in our world that are deeply upsetting, and I'll cry in a meeting and say, okay, like this is me, I'm feeling it. So I have been called those things, but now I'm like, no, it's my superpower that I feel deeply, because the
Yeah.
fact that I feel deeply allows me to wake up every morning and want to raise money and resources and awareness for the work that we do and bring people on the journey with us. So, and being bossy means that I can solve a problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I I love that. There is that, it is just being a boss. It's taking care of things. It's
Yeah.
taking care of ourselves and others. And it takes that strength that people sometimes are affronted by, but it
Mm-hmm.
takes that strength to make any change, I think,
Yes.
in the world.
Yeah.
And I think today having this conversation with you remind me that like leadership is never one thing. It's like giving, receiving, and asking and
Yes.
lifting others up and listening to them. Um, but what it always is based in humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, UWNYC. I don't know if it's shorter to say it in the letters or if it's easier to say United Way of New York City. It's just a bit
Either, yeah, yeah.
complicated.
United
Yeah.
Way of New York City
Yeah.
or UWNYC both. Yes, yes.
But your work is also grounded in that humanity. Um, and it makes me love the organization more after talking to Grace and after talking to you because you all really feel your work.
Yes.
And and it's real to you.
Yes.
Um, and the people are real people. It's not like you see them as just a
No.
number or a person taking that, pound of food. They are people with feelings as
And
well.
families and
Yeah.
yes, yeah. And
And
I think
having that.
yeah, and I think particularly now that I'm a mother,
Yeah.
the first time my son asked me, why is that person eating trash and we were on the subway,
Yeah.
your heart breaks and you don't have an answer,
Right.
and you have to explain why. Or when we see someone perhaps having a mental issue, and you explain, well, honey, some people's brains may not be wired the way we are, but this
Right.
is how you give them space, and this is how you protect yourself,
Yeah.
etc. Um, and so it is about the people, and it is about what that humanity and the leadership is like. We can come together, right? And like we can be here in the role, and sometimes it's with a donation, sometimes it's volunteering, sometimes it's just people saying, I appreciate your work and keep going, and that motivates us. So
Yeah.
it isn't one thing, it is all of the ways that we can come together because we're not all one way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I could talk to you all day. I have your email, so I might.
Please follow up.
I know. I
Yes,
was
I'm
like, so
happy to
I might just
talk.
try to like worm my way into being your best friend now, after this
Please, yes.
conversation. But thank you for showing us what real community leadership looks like. I think like the way you lead should be an example for all leaders in that way, the empathy that you show. It is so beautiful, and I would love to work for you. I might pivot, sorry, Candace,
Well,
into
you
that.
want to be a philanthropist. I'm like,
I
yes,
know,
let's
I know.
talk.
I'm like,
And I love that in
I'm
high
gonna,
school you
yeah,
said that. That's
I'm gonna
wonderful.
worm my way in. But especially in this season when so many need support and also dignity and
Mm-hmm.
hope. Thank you for showing that that is possible to extend that to people and how to do that.
And
So,
thank you so much for having us. We appreciate you. And like, I always feel refilled when I have these connections with people. So thank
great.
you. Yes.
Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye.